Thank you very much, Commissioner. That really helps us set the stage for today's panel. A couple items. The panel today, we're going to discuss the immediate energy reliability and the environmental challenges that we are facing here in LA County as a result of the Aliso Canyon methane leak. We can't have a sustainability conference and not have George on the stage where we can't have that discussion. And then we're going to move a little bit into a discussion about what the Commissioner brought up of some of the near-term challenges we have, to discuss the major opportunities to drive local investment in sustainable solutions, energy efficiency, and renewables. And in particular, talk a little bit about the social equity piece. We want to ensure that the money that we're spending today on these programs really does filter down to the disadvantaged communities, not only here in Los Angeles, but throughout the state. So that will be kind of the second half of our discussion. Great. So it's great to have the panel. I think I introduced the Commissioner. To his immediate left is Strela, Cervas, who is the co-director of California Environmental Justice Alliance. To her left is the Honorable Jimmy Gomez, who is the Assemblyman from California's 51st District. To his left is George Minter, the Regional Vice President for External Affairs and Environmental Strategy for Southern California Gas. Jonathan Port, the CEO of PermaCity, sitting to his left. And last but not least is Ellah Ronen, who is the Program Administrator for LA in sync of the Annenberg Foundation. So we got a great group here to talk today about some of the issues that we have set the table for. I'm not going to go any further in their bios. They are in the program if you want to read more. And I think we have to start off with George. I know Southern California Gas has been working hard on the methane leak in multiple capacities. I want to talk specifically about there were 5 commitments that you announced that were part of the program and commitment to residents. One was to ensure the residents and the affected communities returned home safely. I think the second was that you would ensure that they had high-quality customer services and a large resource base available to those residents. I think third was you're going to really dive in, which you have, to investigate the cause of the leak, working with the regulatory agencies to inspect the wells to make sure that others are safe in the neighborhood. And then I think the last was developing a plan to mitigate the GHG emissions that resulted from that methane leak. So I think we'd like to focus a little bit with you, the Commissioner, and other panelists on what is the correct response, knowing that you have laid out one, and then focusing in on how we ensure that we have the reliability of gas service this summer. We are facing potentially, we've talked about as a result of not having that backup supply, we could have as much as 14 days of outage at peak periods, which is dramatically impactful on the businesses in Southern California. So before I start off and we have our panel discussion, George, if you give us kind of a brief update on where you are and the viewpoint from Southern California Gas.
So you weren't kidding when you said I'd be on the hot seat.
Yeah, no, I think you've been there for a little bit, for a while.
Yeah, I think we're used to that. Well, let me address what happened and where we're at. What happened is we had a leak on October 23rd. Our focus was always on safety, employee safety, customer safety, community safety, addressing the leak, resolving it as quickly and expeditiously as possible and as safely as possible, and addressing community impacts. And that's been our focus from day one. The leak was difficult to stop. We went through several iterations of what's called a well kill, which essentially is you pump in a brine solution to offset the pressure of the gas moving forward with pressure down, create a stalemate, and we weren't able to exert enough pressure, and so that results in the need to drill a relief well. A lot of people were concerned about, well, why is it taking so long? Well, drilling a relief well is like, and LABC is comprised of a lot of developers, so you guys will be familiar with this. You've got to find a site, you got to grade the site, you got to erect the foundation, you got to build your superstructure, and then you got to start drilling. So it takes a couple of weeks, actually, to put the rig in place to get ready to drill. And we were doing that from very early on. We stopped the leak in February. During that time, there were periodic readings every day by the air agencies on levels of methane, levels of mercaptan, other constituents of concern, benzene. All of which were below or at and around background levels. There were a few days where there were some readings of spiked benzene, but still below OSHA levels. we recognize that folks were smelling methane. Well, what they really were smelling was the mercaptan, which is an additive to the methane. And it does, at very, very low levels, can make some people nauseous and other folks not. We had identified a radius of about 40,000 homes, some of whom decided to relocate. I think at the height of the leak, we had about a little under 8,000 homes relocated. So 32,000 homes did not relocate. At the end of the leak, when we stopped the leak, and we've been monitoring, and the agencies have been monitoring the air every day, we called for folks to move home, and there was some debate over, well, what's still there? The air agencies still today are monitoring every day for methane, mercaptan, and benzene, and you can see that on the ARB and the South Coast websites, and they're clear every day. That's a remaining issue now. Half of the folks have gone home, or about half have gone home, and half haven't. So we still have about 4,000 families of the 40,000 radius, or say 10%, that have not moved home. And they're very concerned because the LA County Public Health Department really hasn't made a definitive determination about indoor air quality or health impacts. So that's the current status. That's where we're at in terms of the leak, the effect on the community. We have done relocation. We are doing household cleaning. We're doing extensive and full house cleaning as an offer to all those who are concerned about any constituent elements in the house. Really, just an aside, methane is a gas that's in our atmosphere. We breathe it every day. It's not harmful to anyone's health. The only way methane is harmful to your health is if you've got too much methane, you have no oxygen, you would asphyxiate because you're not getting oxygen. And that the issue that's been of debate and that has been of concern that people have smelled is the mercaptan, which has been added to natural gas for over 150 years for safety reasons. The bigger question is what's happening now? And there's really two broad issues. One is, how do we manage the demand for gas in the peak times, which typically in history has been wintertime. That's when demand goes up because of everybody's need for heat. But in recent years, we see demand for gas goes up in the middle of the summer when we have heat waves to provide natural gas to gas generators to provide for these peak demand days. And that's what the concern is ahead of us, in the period ahead of us. And that is that we brought the volumes of gas stored in the field down to very minimum levels. It's a very large storage field. It's the largest west of the Mississippi. And by the way, the reason you do natural gas storage is because you build a delivery system to deliver to customers, but oftentimes the demand is greater than the supply that you can get in from out of state. And by the way, most people don't understand that natural gas that we use in California doesn't come from California. 90% of the gas that we bring to our customers comes from out of state. It comes from the supply basins in the Southwest and the Rocky Mountains, and it comes by pipeline. Our pipeline delivery into Southern California is far less than what a peak winter demand day would be. And so that means you need storage. Just like you have water reservoirs to store water, you need natural gas storage. People ask me, well, what did you do before you used these old oil reservoirs, which, by the way, held natural gas and oil. That's why you select them for natural gas storage. It used to be you actually had containers that had bladders in them, and people may be familiar with some of those along the 405 looking off to San Pedro and some of the refineries, because those were the site locations for some of those. And you replace those with much safer and higher capacity underground storage. So now we're in a situation where we brought the volumes down, and the reason we, instead of taking pipeline delivery to customers through the winter, we were withdrawing from storage, and that brings the pressure down and makes the job of stopping that leak more easier and more effective. So now we're at a very low level, and the debate is, okay, what do we do now? Well, the concern is not about the storage reservoir. It's not about Aliso Canyon natural gas storage. It's about the wells. We had a well failure. There's 114 wells. The function of these wells is to push gas into the ground and to pull gas out of the ground when the demand is there to remove it from storage. That's what the wells do. This field was an old oil field that operated in the 30s and 40s. We purchased it in the 70s. It was significantly depleted. We recharged it with gas to operate as a storage reservoir. And it's a critical reservoir for electric generating plants. There's 18, actually 17 operating plants that are directly served out of Aliso, and that's the current concern. And so the focus of the regulatory agencies has been how do we ensure well safety? The concern of the community is, well, we need to shut it down, or we need to make sure it's operated safely. And I think where we're at is that DOGGR, which is the regulatory agency, has passed emergency regulations that requires us to inspect every well before any well is opened. And we are now working with the legislature, which just passed out of committee Senator Pavley's bill, which is consistent with the DOGGR regulations. We unveiled a plan about a month ago that's consistent with these regs that will focus on more recently drilled and higher capacity wells that will undergo the new inspection regime. And this was a regime that was developed by LBL and scientists nationwide. And when those wells pass inspection, then we'll be able to inject and withdraw. And that's the plan going forward. We anticipate being able to be operational at a limited basis in August. That's what we announced a month ago. The challenge is how do we get to August? And then after we get to August, how do we build that supply reservoir for the winter months? So that's the challenge ahead of us. And we're working with DWP, CEC, ISO, and the PUC to develop different approaches to conserving, using energy efficiently, limiting dispatch, and managing demand as we go forward.
So before I jump into a couple of questions for the rest of the panel to comment on your comment, the gorilla that's hiding in the closet is this, the impact on the global greenhouse gases. This methane leak was quite substantial, and there's a whole debate out there about what that impact is going to be, both short-term and long-term, and there's been a number of different recommendations as to how we attack that. Could you talk a little bit about your thoughts on how the gas company views some of the solutions to that impacts, and then we'll ask the Assemblyman and Strela and the Commissioner to kind of opine on your thoughts and what they see as the impacts as well.
Well, I think the reality is when you look at the leak, the capping of the leak, addressing the community concerns with respect to relocation and air quality, when you stand back and look at all of that, the really significant environmental impact of this leak is the climate impact. It's the volume of methane that went into the atmosphere. Early on, we recognized this was critical to address, and early on in December, we went to the governor and said, look, we understand that this has significant climate impact and that we will mitigate this impact, meaning we will take out of the atmosphere methane that we put into the atmosphere. And so that's the approach of the gas company. Now, the governor, when he issued his emergency order, which required us to withdraw and to bring the levels down and got all the agencies working together and did a whole lot of things. One of the things it also did is it charged ARB with developing a mitigation plan. And they have done so, and we have been in dialogue back and forth when that was developed, and we've made comment, and we made critical comment. Our focus is going to be on methane mitigation, mitigating the climate impact. We're looking at developing a suite of programs that really will look at a methane-oriented program. So some of the debates about, the CO2 value, and it's at a 100-year time frame or a 20-year time frame, and what's the global warming potential of methane? Is it 24 times or 84 times? If you really focus on methane, that debate's not relevant. And so I think the agencies would like us to do that. That's where we'd like to go because we think that's where the opportunity is. And when I say that's where the opportunity is, the ARB and the state is developing a short-lived climate pollutant plan. And the focus of that plan is taking methane out of the atmosphere. Now, let's just put the climate impact of Aliso into perspective. The largest sources of methane emissions into the atmosphere is not the oil and gas industry. It's not the infrastructure. Gas pipelines are probably less than 6%. The whole oil and gas sector is about 9%. It's really the human production and waste stream. 85% of methane emissions to atmosphere in the state, under the state's inventory in the CARB plan, is landfills, wastewater treatment, dairies, agricultural operation, ranches, and woodland waste. Those are the real sources. And so from our perspective, to address the impact of our leak, which is now stopped, we will focus on those sources and capture that methane. And ultimately, we put that in the pipeline and we deliver it as an energy resource. And that's actually renewable natural gas. So the idea here is to displace the fossil gas with the renewable gas and actually bring the carbon content of gas supply down. One of the things that we've been talking to agencies about is that actually we need to think about gas supply like we thought about electric supply 30 years ago. It was predominantly fossil electric supply. We had some nuke, we had some hydro, but we focused on solar, we focused on wind, which are renewable resources. Well, gas supply we can make more renewable as well because there's a lot of renewable gas that can displace traditional gas supply. And this is an opportunity to do so, and that's what we intend to do.
So Assemblyman Gomez, I know this has been front and center on your radar screen. I'd be interested on your comments on the plan as proposed and some of the challenges and opportunities you see as a result of the methane gas leak.
Well, thank you first for having me. Fairly new to some of these issues, but I have been discussing with Senator Pavley and others. She was front and center, so I'll give her credit because she was one of the leading advocates on this issue. What I've been informed is that one of the things we need to look for is a complete, fully offset the emissions that were released during the leak. It was 111 days, and during that 111 days, you had 100,000 tons of methane that were released and then 8 million tons of CO2. And although methane goes everywhere, and of course the mitigation can take place anywhere in the globe, it should be focused locally. And the reason why is that communities don't think about what you do in China or what you do in a different part of the globe. They think about what you do to mitigate what occurred in their own backyard. So focusing on local and regional approaches to reduce that methane, to fully offset and mitigate it, is going to be a step in the right direction. It's not only makes sense, but it's also good politics, good outreach, and good PR. And that's where we're really encouraging you to go, is to focus on the mitigation at the local level. Figure if you can focus on projects that also have co-benefits to them, that focus on disadvantaged communities. Because when you have a situation like this, if I'm thinking about it, it's not just about fully offsetting the methane emissions globally. It's about what can you do to prove to people that you've taken every responsible step. And some of it is PR. It really doesn't matter if you do it somewhere else, but it matters to the people who are impacted. And that's where I would like to encourage SoCalGas to go.
Well, let me comment on that because we agree. The challenge is being able to identify in a short time frame within the state of California all of the methane mitigation measures that really are accomplishable. And our intent is to focus in California. Our comments to the ARB was, we're talking about climate change as a global phenomenon and methane emissions are worldwide. And let's just keep that in mind. And that is a position that we've taken. On the other hand, we totally concur with your perspective. We'd like to see all of this have economic benefit right here at home in California as well as more locally. I will just comment, EDF had a blog entry just yesterday by Tim O'Connor, who's been one of the early critics of the leak and one of the early advocates of addressing and mitigating the impact of this leak. And his opening line was, Elisa might have been big in California, but it was a drop in the bucket on what's going on every day in Texas. And he has a point. There are a lot of methane leaks associated with production that actually is related to gas supply coming to California. California dedicated, directed supply. So that might be a great opportunity there as well.
No, it's great. I mean, the gas company as a responsible corporate citizen. And Strela, talk a little bit about kind of, you're one of the advocates for making sure that the environmental justice does flow through, and we do have social equity here in the city and county. Can you talk a little bit about how you see the impact and some of the opportunities that may result as in partnerships with the gas company?
Yeah, absolutely. I don't think it's, if you've been following the California Environmental Justice Alliance's work, I don't think it's a secret that we've been fighting to transition off of natural gas and more towards local renewable energy in California, and it actually fulfills our state's climate and energy goals. We've heard a lot over the years about SoCalGas and other utilities calling natural gas a bridge fuel to local renewable energy. I would like to take a different perspective and really, ask that we stop focusing on that bridge of natural gas and focus more on the other end that's not being paid attention to, which is the renewable energy, which is the solution that we see. And I think that the Aliso Canyon is a climate and public health disaster that exemplifies exactly why natural gas is dangerous to communities and to public health. And what we've seen is that 69% of people that live near an oil well or a gas well are people of color. And we also know that a majority of the gas power plants get sited near, in or near communities of color. And so from our perspective, we're really looking to see the equity and the benefits of the mitigation plan get to environmental justice communities, particularly low-income communities and communities of color, because they are, in fact, the ones that are going to be most impacted and the most ill-equipped to deal with the damage that has been done. I think for the mitigation plan, but we've read in terms of the Air Resources Board, the recommendation is that the plan needs to look at equity within the plan, and then also focus on disadvantaged communities. So there is a very clear charge there, and we would agree, and we would think that we would want to see a lot more renewable energy efficiency in impacted communities, especially the disadvantaged communities that often live next to these oil and gas wells and next to the power plants. So I would like to take that sort of approach in terms of building the positive solution at the other end of the bridge.
No, I think your comments are well taken, and that's part of So we're going to flip, where this conference is never about fossil fuels. It's all about renewable energy and thinking forward. So I think, George...
Can I actually just say a couple things on
yeah,
this?
No, please,
I,
Commissioner.
I can't really keep silent about
we
this.
can't let you off. And
yeah, so
now if you have comments...
We're running a little bit behind, but
but
the governor's January executive order was
Yep.
very, very clear, loaded us with a whole bunch of responsibilities along with the other agencies. We've developed a plan, CEC, CPUC, CAISO, DWP, and DOGGR, the Department of Oil, Gas, and Geothermal Resources within the Natural Resources Agency. So all of us have different pieces of this. DOGGR is looking at really DOGGR and CPUC are ensuring safety. Safety is number one, right? Mitigation is the ARB, as George said. And in the near term, we're all looking together to figure out, how to keep the power plants running this summer. I think one of the big surprises here was, astonishing really, that, this forced our understanding of how dependent we were on that one massive field. And the fluid dynamics is pretty clear now that, gas travels pretty slow through the pipelines. You need something nearby. If you don't forecast correctly, and you don't have the contracts and the dispatch in place, then you can easily have not enough gas going to power plants. And so if it's a little hotter, if it's a little more demand for some reason the day than you thought when you planned the day before, then that's a bad thing. And so, in the near term, we need to make sure that doesn't happen in terms of just electricity reliability. That's really safety and then reliability, a short second maybe, but they're both incredibly important. So totally agree with Strela. Efficiency, demand response, managing the grid. It's not just about cranking up more power plants. It's also about mitigating demand. And so, As I said before, we have a huge array, a huge quiver of technologies that we can use. We need to deploy them and commercialize them and implement them quickly and effectively. I mean, that's in my view, that's the strategy that sets us up for long-term success. If you look at 2030, 2050, and you count the gas molecules, if we're talking fossil gas, we really can't do a whole lot of new investment in gas infrastructure. I mean, in terms of power plants and everything. And if we do, they can't run very much. We have 80% below 1990 levels by 2050. That's not a whole lot of time that you can have a gas plant on. And so luckily we have a lot of replacements, and we have a lot of technology, power electronics, and highly efficient. LEDs are a game changer. I mean, I can go through the list. But in the near term, if you're going to get solar thermal, go ahead and do it. If you're going to replace your lighting system, go ahead and do it. We need to really ramp up the resources on the efficiency side, both for natural gas and for electricity, but particularly this summer for electricity. And then later in the summer, the natural gas action plan going into winter we're going to do another one. The agencies are going to do another one. That's a strategy to get us through the winter. In the summer, it's keeping the electricity system reliable, and then we move into the winter so we have enough gas for heating. So there's a whole lot of, there are lots of moving parts to this, and I think I see it as a great opportunity to be forward-thinking in our policies and choose the ones that have co-benefits, long-term co-benefits, and really the demand side and implementing technology forcefully and muscularly in the gas sector and the electricity sector is really key.
Yeah, it's part of our challenge out there is how do we inform, educate, and communicate to the users that they have lots and lots of options. Yeah. And George, I'll come back to you in a minute. I'd like to have Ellah talk a little bit about what LA Sync is up to and how that, the programs that you are implementing in your education process and your outreach and how that links back in to helping some of the consumers, users, and individuals, consumers out there really access programs and money to implement some of these programs that the commissioner was talking about.
Absolutely. So my name's Ellah, and I'm with the Annenberg Foundation, which 3 years ago started an initiative called LA Sync, with the ultimate goal of bringing more federal and state investment into the LA County region. And we do that mainly by providing technical assistance to different organizations and municipalities competing for federal and state grant money. We provide technical assistance in terms of grants management when applying for a large-scale state or federal grant application. We provide letters of support, outreach, convenings of cross-sector partners, including the philanthropic sector, nonprofit, business, government, and academia. And we also provide help with obtaining matching dollars in order to be most competitive when applying for these resources. We are actually topic neutral, but we do follow the money. And in the recent year or so, with the Cap and Trade Greenhouse Gas Reduction Fund, we've delved very deeply into how we can attract more of these dollars into the LA County region. Now, especially with the mandate that 25% of those funds be spent within disadvantaged communities, as according to the Cal Enviro screen, and 25% touching those communities and 10% within those disadvantaged communities, we've identified that many times those communities that this sort of legislation is looking to help most don't have the capacity to actually apply for the funds or competitively apply for those funds. So how can we identify which communities those are and how to best provide that technical assistance to them in competing? And just in this last round of Affordable Housing Sustainable Communities concept paper application, we were able to support 14 applications coming out of LA County in submitting concept paper. And next week we'll learn to see who gets invited to submit for a full application and what technical assistance we can provide in that. Now, George, I know you haven't been getting a whole lot of praise lately, so don't let it get to your head. But the gas company actually came to LA Sync over a year ago to learn how it can best support disadvantaged communities in applying for these cap and trade funding. So way before Aliso Canyon. And we were able to do workshops with the gas company. I'm sorry?
Can we write that down, George?
It's my project.
I'm sure he'll remember that, no problem. Yeah.
So we were able to do a workshop actually in Downey with the gas company to help with the outreach and education to these disadvantaged communities in applying for cap and trade funds out of the Greenhouse Gas Reduction Fund. We've also partnered with many environmental organizations, nonprofits, the City of Los Angeles, the County of Los Angeles, in helping to organize cross-sector collaboratives in competing for this funding. Again, as I said, we are not topic specific, so it's not the only funding we're going after. We are currently looking to apply for active transportation money out of the state, and for the past 2.5 years, we've been working with the Smart Manufacturing Leadership Coalition in competing for a $70 million grant opportunity through the Department of Energy to bring a Clean Energy Smart Manufacturing Institute to Los Angeles. It's actually a statewide application, and it's part of the National Network of Manufacturing Institutes, the first time that the state of California came together in applying for one of these institutes. And it's still kind of a secret, but I got permission to say we just found out we're a finalist in getting this institute, which will be headquartered in Los Angeles, and that would create a boom of an extra $32 billion into the economy if we were able to get it. It would provide another approximately 100,000 jobs, starting at $100,000 or more in salary, and another 100,000 jobs in a mid-income level job, starting at $50,000. So everybody, please keep your fingers crossed that we do get this institute. So sort of to bring it all back together, we're very lucky here to have legislative officials like Assemblymember Gomez, like Senator Kevin De Leon, in providing us with the legislation to help bring in these really innovative and exciting programs. But how do we then make sure that we capitalize on that innovation, on that innovative legislation, and making sure that money gets here? It is affecting those communities that really need it the most in a positive way, and how we can catalyze all of the talent and resources that we have in our region in order to compete for this funding.
And just pulling off that, Assemblyman Gomez, talk a little bit about some of the programs at the state level that Ellah talked about that would be available that you're working on that would help supplement it.
Thank you. First, so I'm working on a piece of legislation, AB 1550. Some of you probably have heard of it. It builds off of Kevin De Leon's SB 535, which was the 25%. And I don't have a program specifically that says money has to go specifically to this. What I'm trying to do is reconfigure how much of the greenhouse gas reduction funds go where, mainly targeting upping the amount under the SB 35 to 25% directly into disadvantaged communities, and then additional 25% to low-income households no matter where they live in the entire state. What's going on, and this, I need to give you some context of what's going on in the legislature so that you understand that there's tension regarding these programs, because a lot of people feel, a lot of the members feel that they do not directly benefit their areas, their districts. And you're seeing it kind of pull people apart and undermine the support of legislative leaders in cap and trade, as well as GGRF funds. And it goes back to a comment a couple of years ago. Somebody comes up and had a panelist regarding the program of cap and trade, the funding, where it's going. And one of the members complained that they hadn't had a project in their district. And that individual said, well, and that most of it was going to the folks on the west side of LA or the coastal communities through, new Teslas, solar panels on their houses, and so forth. And that person said, well, your areas are getting the benefit of clean air. And it kind of sent a little bit of a ripple effect through the caucus, because it reminded us of these trickle-down environmental policies, that the benefits, the direct benefits of these programs are reserved for those who are already in the best position to adapt, and everybody else just gets the trickle-down of cleaner air. And that didn't sit well with my colleagues. It didn't sit well with me, understanding that the people who are the most low income, most disadvantaged, are the ones that don't have necessarily the resources to adapt to our changing climate, and often are the ones that are less likely to be able to make any changes to their homes, to their habits, their cars, you name it, to actually reduce energy consumption or their greenhouse gas emissions. So we needed to kind of refocus that. So this bill is doubling down on the fact that we need to build a broader coalition throughout California, no matter where people live, and understand that they're going to see benefits, direct benefits, and their lives are going to get better. And that way, we can have a broad coalition that has a shared stake in fighting climate change, a shared stake of reducing their energy consumption, a shared stake in this new way of thinking when it comes to energy and the environment. And I think that AB 1550 might even help pave the way for an expansion of the cap and trade program, because if people feel benefit to it, they're going to be more likely to protect it. If there's current assembly members that say none of the money has gone into my district, then why should I support this program? Then you're not going to have the votes to pass any kind of expansion of cap and trade or the reductions targets. So we have a lot of work to do, but 1550 I think is going to really help. We have low-income individuals in San Diego and some parts of the Bay Area that don't get any direct benefits. So this program, hopefully, if it gets implemented, we will have this bigger and broader coalition. And to talk about kind of helping cities, there's a Speaker Rendon's assembly seat. I was looking how many projects he got in his district, very few, and as well as in Cristina Garcia's district. And part of it is the need to build up the capacity of those local municipalities to apply for those competitive grants. And right now, some of those areas are just not up to the area of expertise that's needed. So we're working on that. So we have a lot to do. Susan Eggman has a bill that would create kind of a one-stop shop for low-income households. So you can actually go and say you qualify for weatherization, solar panels, and a bunch of different other programs. So there are different ideas out there that are floating. Mine is more of just how do we get more resources from GGRF funds to the people that are less likely to benefit from any kind of program that's currently in existence.
So thank you, and Jonathan, I haven't forgot you because I'm saving the best for last. He's got some exciting news here, but just coming off of Assembly Gomez's comments, Strela, you led the coalition to pass AB 693, which was the multifamily affordable housing renewable energy program, which takes $100 million of cap and trade and really focuses on installing 300 megs of renewable energy on multifamily. Can you talk a little bit about that program? Because that kind of tees up what Jonathan's going to talk about here on some of the local solar programs that we've executed here in LA.
Absolutely, thank you. And I got to give credit to Assemblymember Eggman from Stockton for authoring that bill, and our allies, Calcia, who worked really closely with on AB 693. So before I get into the details of AB 693, I just wanted to talk about the story behind it. AB 693 wasn't just a one-year effort for the California Environmental Justice Alliance. It was actually a 5-year effort on our part. The reason that we even began to engage in renewable energy is because, again, our communities live right next to natural gas power plants and oil refineries and are living and breathing the daily impacts of what gets spewed out of all of those facilities. And our communities were demanding something positive, a positive solution for energy in their communities. They really wanted all the good stuff and not any more of the bad stuff, really. And so 5 years ago, we proposed a similar bill, and this was back at a time when environmental justice was not known at all in the legislature, and certainly CEJA, the California Environmental Justice Alliance, had no name at all in California. And suffice it to say, that bill died, and we just kept fighting on and on to get the same kind of renewable energy program because our communities really deserve it. That effort was not the effort of just a single person, but it was really a collective effort of community-led people, and particularly women of color walking the halls and going toe-to-toe with big lobbyists. So I just want to tell that story because that bill is really near and dear to my heart. It's not just one simple program, but it is really the story, I feel like, of environmental justice in California. So what the bill does is it is the nation's largest investment of solar in disadvantaged communities. It invests $1 billion over 10 years for solar on multifamily affordable housing. And it will be 300 megawatts when the 10 years is over. And that's huge. That means that California is saying, yes, we recognize that disadvantaged communities need this infrastructure, and yes, we're actually going to do something about it, and we are going to invest $1 billion into your communities. There are incredible economic and jobs benefits that come out of this as well. It's estimated that up to 5,000, green jobs will come out of this. Over 210,000 units of multifamily affordable housing will actually get and benefit from the solar. And greenhouse gas emissions will be reduced by 3 million tons over the course of the program. So there are definitely direct benefits. The status of the program right now is AB 693 is at the California Public Utilities Commission, and it's in a proceeding, and that proceeding should last up until the end of 2016. So the exact locations and buildings of where the solar will go is yet to be determined, but in the statute, it says that the solar needs to get onto both disadvantaged communities and low-income buildings. And so that's kind of, the definition of those things is being debated right now. But LA will definitely see that. It is IOU specific, so our munis, unfortunately, won't get to benefit from the program, but maybe in the near future we can expand the program.
That's great, and that tees it up for Jonathan. The LA Business Council and the Institute have been very focused on rooftop solar, in particular in basin. As you know, we helped work very hard over the last number of years with the mayor to implement the largest in-basin feed-in tariff program in the United States, and we're very proud of that. We have a 150 megawatt program in place with the goal to go to 400 megawatts by in the next 2 to 3 years, and eventually increasing that to 1,500 megawatts. And it was interesting, if you take a look at the report, we really identified the opportunities and the success of the program in the most recent UCLA update that's in your program guide today. And we're also proud of the fact that if you look at the analysis, that over 40% of those installations are in areas that fit that social equity definition, that they're underserved communities that really are benefiting from this program. And that tees it up for Jonathan at PermaCity, who is the market leader here in Los Angeles and has phenomenal programs that he has executed in his company. And I want you to, again, talk a little bit about what you're doing and make some of the announcements that you have today.
Great, thank you.
With that, I appreciate your patience.
Okay, let's see, where do we start? This is an amazing panel, Brad, so thank you. Strela, we're very concerned as PermaCity with social equity. PermaCity means permanent city. Does not come from a savvy business point of view, but a goal. As I'm born in Los Angeles, I'm Angelino. I'm going to call this a Silicon Beach play under our new theme. This is really a vision to make LA sustainable and do the right thing. We think that 60% of the solar can be in basin and on roofs. May take a little reshaping of roofs, but that's my view of the measured capacity. It may take 100 years to do that, but we think it's very positive that we can do that. Let's see. Aha. Okay. So this is. So I'm going to introduce you to PermaCity and our solar strap. Doing business in Los Angeles, I was on a quest to do the right thing and learn how to do business in Los Angeles, even though I'm born here. And that entailed in creating a product. We have earthquakes. We have buildings that aren't the strongest, and you really can't put extra ballast on them. And then we have building codes. We have very smart building officials here. Anyone who's tried to get a permit, Jacob's in the audience, has tried to get a permit in the city of LA, knows how difficult it is. So the city of LA taught me, and PermaCity.
You're welcome for that. You're welcome. By the way. Yeah.
They taught us how to behave. They told me if I want to go do business here, I need to get my own ICC number. I'm like, what's that? Oh, International Code Council. And I guess I'll be the first commercial system to have that. I learned why others hadn't done that in the process, but we will. It'll be issued this summer.
How many years was that, Jonathan?
And of course, you have to get UL, and you have to get an LAR number. You have to do a lot of things to do business in the city, but it's a good city. They do support you, and I'm proud to be here. So this theme is world-leading projects in Los Angeles by PermaCity. This is a picture of Forever 21. We put the graduating workforce to work. from the trade tech, and we are creating jobs. We're really proud of that. And this job is in Boyle Heights, right next to downtown. I'll show you a picture of it. It's 5.1 megawatts. It is the most powerful corporate headquarters in the world. Wow. It is, excuse me, I was looking back. Thanks for that. It's 100 kW bigger than the headquarters at Apple, and it's more powerful than Toys R Us on the East Coast. So we actually have the most
It's
powerful
actually
corporate
El
headquarters.
Sereno, not Boyle Heights.
El Sereno, thank you.
It's in my assembly seat. That's how I know.
Please come for a tour anytime. the system debuted our solar strap, and if you can, I should look there. If you can take a look, you see it's not an even roof. This is what you find. Flat roofs, tilted roofs, things slide off, really tilted roofs, and flimsy roofs. So we had to create a system where you can mount one module, or in this case, thousands of modules, and work with many different roof types. And we did, and we also needed to put people to work and what they could understand. So that's Forever 21. We have the highest powered corporate record. Not the biggest system, but the highest powered, but bigger than Apple's headquarters.
Yahoo!
Silicon Beach.
I like that fact. That's a good one.
Okay, then we had to go down to the ocean. The ocean's very difficult. You got salt water, corrosion, marine grade. I had to hire a nuclear engineer to tell me how to get my metals right. Steel reacts with aluminum. It rusts out, and 5 years later, it's nothing. This building is a actually World War II building at the end, and it wouldn't hold a lot of weight. So good thing we're not a ballasted system. In fact, we don't even penetrate the roof. And so we built this, got to 1.2 megawatts, largest job at the Port of LA, and more to come. Okay, so I actually had to transition the company to be able to do this. So again, we're trying to move the envelope. PermaCity likes to set the standards. So we couldn't give up our day job business, so we decided to help Fox Studio build the largest motion picture studio. That's, of course, in West LA. Great customer. It's not a roof. It's a very robust steel carport. So you can see it from Pico Boulevard. You can see some Galaxy Way. You can see big cantilevers, beautiful design. Real proud that they chose us to build that. And they're great to work for. Okay, so that's all leading up to the next one. Now, the next one is we're taking the world record, 16.4 megawatts, City of LA.
This will be the world's largest solar system.
On a roof.
In basin, on a roof.
In basin.
Wow.
There's another thing we're going to take. We figured out how to get the highest output with more commonly available materials. So this system will produce up to 45% more power than standard equipment. There's some unique attributes we have when we combine with the roof, when we use our system, and when we get really smart about it, especially in the latitude of Los Angeles that we've learned. So we're going to take 2 records here, and we're real excited about that. Real excited about it. And of course, that's allowing us to, I forgot to say that this one delivered the lowest cost fit to date, lowest cost operating fit to date. We took the record there. This one will take it one step further. And we'll open the opportunity because LA is a very smart community. We don't want to be like the Germans and pay 60 cents a kilowatt hour. They seem to know what they want, and they set the standard. So this one's going to bring that down to 13.5 cents, and it's going to offer prevailing wage jobs to all the workers. It's going to give people an opportunity. So to summarize, I'm just a little nearsighted, so I have to look back at the screen. So it's going to produce 565 million kilowatt-hours during the 20-year contract. We're talking about 530,000 tons. Okay, not quite, but it's contributing to that. It's equivalent of 5,000 homes, 6,000 cars. It's a really good move for LA. 500 direct jobs, both on-site. We fabricate our materials here in Los Angeles County. We're creating the jobs here. That's one of the challenges of the fit. So by being a member of Silicon Beach and very dedicated, we're doing our as much manufacturing here as we can. And again, we're also increasing the quality of the roofs. These all have reflective, eco-efficient TPO roofs. I do have to thank a few parties. I have to thank, who do I thank? We're doing it all with union labor, and because they do a good job of taking care of their people. So we've got to thank both Local 11, Local 300, and Local 1309. We have to thank the mayor's office, who's been tirelessly making it happen. LABC, of course, Brad, and Mary Leslie. We have to thank the Los Angeles Department of Building and Safety, because they have taught us how to behave ourselves and actually get permits. And they've been very wonderful to work with. And we need to also, of course, thank our finance partners, JF and TGC, who are not here today, but have spent a lot of time in Los Angeles and are joining LABC, of course. And then we do need to give a shout out to two people in the audience, Roy and Gerardo, who worked tirelessly to also make it happen. Shh, about that one. Okay, so there it is. Thank you very much.
Oh, very nice. That's a nice story. It's a great success story. So, Commissioner, talk a little bit about kind of the challenges and opportunities. I'd like to hear from each one of you, and in particular, George, I know the gas companies work very hard and in partnership with DWP on energy efficiency here in the basin. Talk a little bit about some of the tools that are out there, both either policy or other opportunities for us to really improve our energy efficiency pipeline. And I know you're working hard on it at the commission level.
Absolutely.
And you talked about it earlier. Just talk about where you see those opportunities move forward. And I'd like to hear that from each of the panelists on how we work collaboratively together to really move to the next level.
Okay, well, I wanted to mention a couple things that, building on what the Assemblyman said. Certainly completely agree that the local governments are the key entity here. I mean, the building departments have the critical jurisdiction for the majority of the stuff we're talking about. You have to go get a building permit. It's safety, it's health, and it's energy efficiency. And you know what? Energy efficiency isn't the highest, isn't the top priority among all of those. The building departments have a tough job. During the crisis, a lot of them got rid of their, half their staff during the downturn. And so as the economy rebounds and as we impose, sort of requirements on the energy front, it is a struggle for them to deal. And I think we have to call a spade and figure out how we can help bridge the gaps that they feel in their day-to-day obligations and labors if we're going to expect them to do the things that we want them to do from the policy perspective in the energy front. So I think frankly, a frustration of mine at the Energy Commission has been the need for resources at the local level to help me be a true partner with the local governments to really get things done in a way that affects real buildings and real people, because we don't have that direct reach down into the project itself from the state level. And so I think there's really a critical kind of team building that needs to happen there, and that takes some resources. The other thing I'll mention is Prop 39. It's a place, it's not exactly, there is some focus on disadvantaged communities in terms of having a bump of the resources that they get allocated, school lunch, subsidized school lunch kind of factor. But that is I think a nice collaboration, a nice initiative that gets to some of the issues we've been talking about. And schools they're community focused. They really do need resources. They've been underfunded for a long time, and I think that program is a limited term program, but there is some talk about keeping it going, and because there is much more need than the funds that we currently have. A few $1 billion, a couple $1 billion, goes a certain amount, but there are a lot, we're a big state, we're going to hit 40 million people. We have a lot of schools and a lot of children that need quality learning environments. So it's really just a drop in the bucket. So that's an opportunity. The last thing I'll say, there's a kind of an epic, struggle here. Celebrity deathmatch, maybe we'll call it, with SoCalGas, on one side and the electric, companies on the other side. And I think the jury is out on sort of where that's all going to go. But it has to do with what role natural gas is going to play in our future. And, I talked about sort of counting molecules before. George mentioned biogas. I think one of our key strategies, a strategy that has a clear trajectory for success, is taking some of the things that are now combustion loads and moving them over to electricity. So we're talking about heat pumps, heat pump water heaters, heat pump HVAC systems, and moving some industrial processes perhaps over electrification. So utilizing, we're going to have lower cost electricity in bulk from large scale solar or rooftop solar, but that's happening at a time when we may not be able to use it. And so how can we utilize that electricity, that cheap resource, to do things like pre-cool buildings, storage. Storage is a big topic. We haven't talked about it, but there are lots of different kinds of storage. It's not just batteries. So those opportunities are huge because they open up all sorts of local integration of multiple technology platforms that help buildings function, and allow them to take advantage of renewable electricity. Biogas is also a possibility. I think I have yet to see a case that it really can sort of take over the distribution, the core customer kind of distribution of natural gas. I still kind of haven't seen the numbers on how much that can get. How many dairies are there? How many cows does it take to power Los Angeles with supply natural gas to Los Angeles? I don't know the answer to that question, but I think it's a pretty big task to get that done. So are we gonna really convert a lot of stuff over to electricity? Are we really gonna try to focus on electrification, is what we call it, or are we gonna kind of stay the course and try to migrate our natural gas over to biogas? And I think the answer to that question really matters because these are expensive, capital-intensive investments that last decades, and so we really don't want to gold plate all of our systems. We want to focus on the ones that are really going to get the job done. So again, these are I think both are opportunities,
Topics for discussion.
but they're topics going forward that we really are worried about. And there's a lot of smart people looking at and a lot of policy evolution around.
It's good comments. No?
Yeah, so the California Environmental Justice Alliance actually made a priority bill of AB 1550, Assemblymember Gomez's bill that he just talked about. So I'd say that, on that bill, there's definitely no shortage of disadvantaged communities and low-income communities, and I feel like that bill really gets to investments in communities that have been left behind. Another opportunity policy-wise is another bill that we are sponsoring, AB 2722 by Assemblymember Burke from Los Angeles. And that bill will actually designate $250 million of GGRF money and put it into transformative climate communities. And so what that means is disadvantaged communities experience a number of different issues, whether it is living next to dirty energy or having a lack of access to energy efficiency, living next to freeways, that kind of thing. And so what the bill tries to do is look at, rather than a piecemeal approach of funding project by project, looking at a comprehensive, holistic approach to fund cities to put together a transformative climate plan that is comprehensive and made up of many different components that the community envisions. So larger grants will be given out to agencies and developers who partner with community-based organizations to develop their transformative climate plan and address bringing in more renewable energy, energy efficiency, et cetera, into disadvantaged communities. So I would say that was a huge opportunity and really kind of the future for us.
It's a great comment. Assemblyman?
First, there's opportunities in a lot of the current existing programs, and I think we should take kind of a look through an equity lens in the sense of how do we make these programs work for the lower income individuals that might not be able to access those programs if everyone gets the same amount or the same rebate or the same credit. Kevin DeLeon's bill that dealt with fuel efficient vehicles, making sure that lower income individuals got more of assistance when it comes to purchasing one of those vehicles, I think is kind of the right way to go, because if you give everybody the same, they're definitely not going to be able to use it. I even used that model when I improved the paid family leave program. Doesn't deal with this, but it does have that same concept. You have to make sure your programs get more resources to the individuals that need it. And this is something that you see Governor Brown has been doing throughout every major policy area. So that's part of it. That's an opportunity to strengthen some of those programs. Additionally, I think the Los Angeles River is one of the best opportunities that we have here in the entire region. It's 51 miles that goes from Canoga Park across the San Fernando Valley, down the east side, all the way to Long Beach. And you actually take a look, there's 37% of the census tracts along the river. We're in the top 10% of the most polluted census tracts. So it is an area that we need to clean up. But imagine if we actually revitalize the LA River and break up all the concrete. It will be actually be able to use that to sequester greenhouse gas emissions and make sure that we get to that last 15% that we need to target. I was reading the I guess, the report on AB 32 and its implementation. I was saying that 85% of our reductions, 80 to 85% of reduction in greenhouse gas emissions are from our built environment, making buildings more energy efficient, making sure our cars are more fuel efficient, so forth. But that last 15% is really about kind of restoring our natural environment so it can begin to sequester the greenhouse gases. But you can't start 20 years from now. You have to start today, because any kind of tree or greening is going to take a long, long time to be at a sufficient size to do that. But also look at the housing that you can build along close to the LA River. LA River has also, I believe, 300 roads that dead end into it. And you have numerous bus tracks. So if you had a bike trail that connected it, you can bring more people from park poor areas into the greenway, make sure that they can actually connect, take care of that, hopefully that last half-mile problem when it comes to transportation issues. So the LA River is a great potential when it comes to greening our city and not only to our environment, but also to economic development. You can even look about housing in some of those areas that don't really have the density. So we have a lot of potential along the LA River, and I think that we need to kind of focus on that, and I think we can get there with two leaders of the legislature that cover the LA River.
Good. We have just 5 or 7 minutes left, George, if you want to step in, and then we'll Jonathan and I'll let it finish up.
Thank you. I appreciate the Commissioner's comments about overall energy efficiency and the challenge of managing both gaseous fuel, natural gas, or biomethane, renewable natural gas, with electricity. Where does it make sense to electrify? Where does it make sense to use molecular fuels, gaseous fuels? When you look at overall energy efficiency, molecular fuels are often much more efficient, particularly for thermal applications and in commercial and industrial applications, but even in residential applications. E3, very respected firm, does a lot of work for the agencies, looked at displacing gas for electric. And GHGs actually go up when you do kind-for-kind displacement until you get to about a 50% renewable profile on the electric side. So then the challenge is, well, then how do you grow the renewable profile on the gas side? And that's the challenge. How do we grow our biomethane opportunity? We've got to look to Europe. Germany's got 5,000 biomethane facilities. We've got 50. That has to change. The resources that I talked about, landfills, wastewater, ag, woodland waste. There we go. That's the end point. Huh? That represents about a 20% renewable opportunity fully deployed. That's 20% renewable gas. The fuels pathway that ARB has for displacing petroleum fuels represents about another 20% renewable gas pathway. So that's essentially a 40% renewable profile for gas. But again, you look at the EU nations, they're looking at the large rooftop solar that PermaCity is talking about, and they're taking the midday excess when there's too much power being generated in the midday. They're taking that electricity, running it through water, producing hydrogen. It's a green hydrogen pathway. And they're methanating the hydrogen and putting it in the pipeline. It's called power to gas. There's about 35 of those projects in the EU nations. We just built the first one in the United States at UC Irvine. We're taking their excess midday solar, converting it to hydrogen, putting it in the pipeline. So there's hydrogen blending and methanation. All of that then is renewable natural gas. So we look at the 2030 to the 2050 timeframe to try to get to a 20, then 40, then 60% renewable profile. We need to think differently about gas supply and more deeply that it doesn't have to be fossil. We're going to use gaseous fuels. How do we use them efficiently, and how do we make them renewable?
That's great. Jonathan, he just gave you some new ideas.
Indeed. Amazing ideas on this panel. We're really interested in doing a community project. We thought Crafted, the one at the port, got us closest to it. We have a very large park that serves the community that we'd like to improve with a large project, but we're also interested in using our technology to help get it out on small businesses to bring their costs down. And of course, as it grows, the projects we build are so big, they have utility-grade interconnects, and I think, George, looking at alternative ways, whether it's taking some of the excess and turning it into hydrogen, putting them back into the pipelines are great ideas. I think we all need to learn how to do that together.
Ellah, please.
I think at LA and Sync, we're in the unique space of having the privilege of being a neutral convener. And also, the way tides are turning now, people are not looking at all of this as a zero-sum game. If you get, that means I don't, right? So I think having the opportunity and taking the time to have more of these conversations with this cross-sector collaborative and in this, open and illustrative way is really the basis for how we can then build on all of these potential opportunities that come in the future.
And I know everybody's going to ask for your card to figure out how you can help them get to these programs. So with that, please join me in thanking the panel for an outstanding discussion. So thank you very much.